but I don't understand the outrage. Quote, behind closed doors, Biden shows signs of slipping, unquote. The Wall Street Journal is owned by News Corp, which is run by the Murdochs. Beyond the headline, there is some critical nuance here. The article is mostly based on observations of Republicans, with former Speaker Kevin McCarthy the only one going on the record. They do note in the article that most of the criticism comes from Republicans. Have you heard any concerns from anyone who has met with President Biden about him seeming a little slower? Yeah. The Russians are trying to make us and the public not trust our election integrity. Joe Biden has dementia, all this stuff.
Yeah, so, okay. So this idea that it was Republicans who were spinning this narrative, you didn't see it with your own eyes, even in your own reporting, your own interviews with President Biden, you didn't see it, you pretended you didn't see it, you
actively covered it up. You actively dismissed those claims. We watched you just now.
Right, and so even in this New Yorker piece that was just released yesterday by Jake Tapper, saying, the Democrats...
Is that a redwood you're smoking, Gordon?
Yes, a redwood. It's a vigorous cigarette that 9 out of 10 physicians recommend. All-American tobacco, of course. Smooth, sophisticated, yet passionate.
If things go south at the debate, me, Barack, Nancy, and Hakeem have a plan B. That's what Chuck Schumer said. So Democrats were saying, we see him doing badly. If we think he can't win, we're going to come up with a plan B. May I remind you, it was not for kingmakers to have a plan B. President Biden won the Democratic primary. Voters chose him. So why, Clayton, would these elites say, we have a plan B that's outside the hands of the voters? What are you going to say, Philip?
Nothing.
Oh, okay. I thought you say
I was going to say something, if I can. So the problem that I have with this is Jake Tapper on television dismissing all of these reports that he knew personally. And you can hear it in his voice. I don't know if he's being paid or told to not say this, but then now he's trying to claim that, no, we were on the case, me and Alex Thompson were on the case.
Most people's main asset is their primary home. And so if you have equity in your home, then what you can do is what wealthy people do is leverage that so that you can trade that debt for good. Our friends over at Active Finance teach you that. You can call them 866-890-8434. Give them 10 minutes and they can teach you, again, something that wealthy people do all the time, leverage their assets. And you don't hoard your assets, you leverage, you turn bad debt into good. You can also head on over to americanfinancing.net/redacted. They can help you refinance or put a new or leverage your home loan for a smaller interest rate. Get rid of those credit cards.
And this is infuriating. So Jake Tapper, the horrible reporter from CNN, has just released this brand new book along with reporter Alex Thompson called Original Sin. President Biden's decline, its cover-up, and his disastrous choice to run again.
Now, the American media is trying to place blame on the Biden White House for hiding President Biden's decline, and now the media is congratulating themselves for having seen it now that there's no consequence to them. So it's a heinous rewriting of their own sins and incredibly frustrating. Now CNN's Jake Tapper is promoting this book. His co-author is this person, Alex Thompson, who won a White House Press Correspondents Award for reporting this. Think about it. The press is rewarding themselves for, quote, rooting out Biden's decline. Hey, ask you, what the F do we need them for if they are giving themselves an award for investigating what was plain common knowledge? They investigated. I mean, it's like they're investigating that women exist. They're investigating that the sky is blue. They are absolute useless assets. Okay, so what they're doing is changing this narrative, not that we all knew that Biden was declining because we did. We reported it here on the show. But that they just found out that the White House was hiding it from them. Now, Jake Tapper himself, many times reported on how Biden was not declining. So he's rewriting history as if he didn't know, when here's just a quick 2-minute clip of him pretending it wasn't true. Watch.
How do you think it makes little kids with stutters feel when they see you make a comment like that?
It's very clearly a cognitive decline.
Okay.
That's what I'm referring to. It makes me uncomfortable.
I think it's so amazing. It's so amazing to me that
Try and figure out an answer.
cognitive decline that Biden embraces his stutter, talking about it, while Trump mocks it, exaggerates it, belittles it. He's sharp physically. I mean, mentally. Yeah, I think the question is physically, right?
Right.
More so?
Right.
And the guy who's his chief opponent is only 3 or 4 years younger than me. I mean, you have questioned President Biden's age, mental fitness, ability to lead. Of those supporting Biden, you said, quote, shame on all of you pretending everything is okay. You're leading us and him into a disaster. Do you worry that you damaged him at all? I don't doubt that you got hugs and handshakes behind closed doors today, and maybe even publicly, some of them because they like you personally. But I've heard a lot of really nasty stuff about you from your Democratic colleagues. I mean, just like, what is he thinking? Exercising narcissism. I mean, false claims to the Wall Street Journal about President Biden's mental fitness and acuity. He's 81, and his memory, it doesn't seem great. It's not horrible, but I don't understand the average. Well, behind closed doors, Biden shows signs of slipping, unquote. The Wall Street Journal is owned by News Corp, which is run by the Murdochs. Beyond the headline, there is some critical nuance here. The article is mostly based on observations of Republicans, with former Speaker Kevin McCarthy the only one going on the record. They do note in the article that most of the criticism comes from Republicans. Have you heard any concerns from anyone who has met with President Biden about him seeming a little slow? The Russians are trying to make us and the public not trust our election integrity. Joe Biden has dementia, all this stuff.
Yeah, so this idea that it was Republicans who were spinning this narrative, you didn't see it with your own eyes, even in your own reporting, your own interviews with President Biden, you didn't see it, you pretended you didn't see it,
You actively covered it up. You actively dismissed those claims. We watched you just now.
Right, and so even in this New Yorker piece that was just released yesterday by Jake Tapper, saying, the Democrats launched a coup against the president, removing him from office when they decided that he couldn't win.
So there's a quote from Chuck Schumer there. It said, if things go south at the debate, me, Barack, Nancy, and Hakeem have a plan B. That's what Chuck Schumer said. So Democrats were saying, we see him doing badly. If we think he can't win, we're going to come up with...
Nah, they can't do that. That's against the law. That's against their fucking rules. Cause they just did a coup on Joe Biden. And we ain't say he'll do shit about it. Boy, we some stupid ass shit.
The plan B. May I remind you, it was not for kingmakers to have a plan B. President Biden won the Democratic primary. Voters chose him. So why, Clayton, would these elites say, we have a plan B that's outside the hands of the voters? What do you say, Cody?
Nothing.
Oh, okay, I thought you say
I was going to say, if I can. So, the problem that I have with this is Jake Tapper on television dismissing all of these reports that he knew personally. And you can hear it in his voice. I don't know if he's being paid or told to not say this, but then now he's trying to claim that, no, we were on the case, me and Alex Thompson were on the case from the very beginning. We were covering this. We were finding it difficult because we were being stonewalled. So listen to him on CNN yesterday promoting this book that we were being lied to. We were being misdirected. We were being misled. So that's the new narrative from these Democratic operatives, Chuck Todd and others, that we simply didn't slip. You had all of the evidence in front of you, and not only that, you covered it up and hid it, and you purposely blamed it on Republicans, you blamed it on the Murdochs for publishing articles inside the Wall Street Journal, And your own network purposefully hid this information. So here it is yesterday, now completely changing the watch this.
I'm just curious as to whether or not this kind of trying to hide what was happening with the president at the time had an impact on the press corps. Like, why didn't we hear some of these details from what Nancy saw and were dealing with trying to do?
We did.
Well, I just showed you. I tried to shut that down.
Well, Alex Thompson and I were on the case, as were lots of other reporters, trying to figure out what was going on behind the scenes.
Why?
Bottom line is the White House was lying, not only to the press, not only to the public, but they were lying to members of their own cabinet. They were lying to White House staffers. They were lying to Democratic members of Congress, to donors about how bad things had gotten. And in fact, Alex and I started writing this book after the election of 2024. And
What it would take to do
more than
so.
200 people, most of whom, almost all of whom, were Democrats. And almost all of them wouldn't be honest with us or wouldn't be candid with us until after the election. And then after the election, we found out all of these things that when you looked at what was going on with President Biden at the time, it probably doesn't surprise you the extent to which he was deteriorating. But now we have anecdotes and facts about what was really going on behind the scenes with details that Democrats wouldn't share with us until after election.
So, okay, so you had to wait till after the election. You have to wait till after the election to find out that all these 200 people were lying to you. So what, all 200 people were lying to you before the election, and now you trust them after the election when it was safe to do so? So you're on the case. When did you start your case, by the way? You started it after the election? You decided, Alex Thompson decided after the election to start to write this book, like something smelled weird?
Because we're rolling the tape of what happened during the election. We saw it.
You have the evidence ahead of time. So you wait till right after.
On it.
You waited till right after.
These people really believe that we're stupid. These people really understand that we're stupid. These people really have faith that we're stupid. These people really hope that we're stupid. My question is to you, are you stupid?
The election to write a book about this. You don't just like one day wake up after the election and decide to write a book when one person tipped you off. No. You had this information beforehand and you sat on it or ignored it, didn't act on it. You waited until after the election to write it. Now you're blaming the Biden administration for this? No. It was all plain as day for everyone to see. Everyone saw it. Yeah, and even your own network's debate where President Biden couldn't even put two sentences together against President Trump on your network's television coverage. All of this was true. We covered it. Like, so it's unbelievable. You wait till after the election, now we're supposed to buy your book. You're going to make money off of this?
Oh, the book has 3 reviews with 5-star reviews, and it's already the #1 seller. Who the
Wow.
F is reading this?
Wow.
Why would you trust this
Wow.
person? Did we
Wow.
try not to know this during
Wow.
the campaign, and then all of a sudden always knew it? What did you say, Philip? I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I was going to say that's like, so it would be the equivalent of like a cop showing up at a murder scene. There's 50 people pointing saying that guy did it. The cop goes over and says, "Did you do this?" And the guy says, "No." The cop's like, "Oh, I don't. No, that's good. We're good." You have to ignore the people. Like, this information was out there. People were telling them. So there was no investigation. No investigative journalism was done. They were just spouting what they were told. They're just repeating, regurgitating.
But no investigative journalism wasn't needed. It was there in plain sight.
But I also love the collaboration here and sort of putting words in someone's mouth. Franklin Fuhrer was on. He was from the Atlantic, and he was on in September of 2023. And even here, Franklin is explaining what is happening with Biden's deterioration. We played a snippet of this just a minute ago, but I'm going to play like the longer clip here because this is where Jake Tapper basically admits that, oh, we're not talking about mental acuity here. We're deflecting. We're just going to talk about his ability to walk. Like, you know, it could just be his physical abilities right now. His mental acuity is really strong also.
How do you think it makes little kids with stutters feel when they see you make a comment like that?
It's very clearly a cognitive.
Franklin Fuhrer. And next there.
Yes, okay.
Aging
is not a singular experience. Everybody different for everybody is, and there's not a sell-by date for human beings.
Right.
They would pass the point where they're no longer up to the job. I think Nikki Haley has talked about a mental acuity test for presidential candidates, and everything I've seen about Joe Biden, he would pass that test.
Right. He's sharp physically. I mean, mentally.
Yeah.
I think the question is physically, right?
Right.
More so.
Right. Well, and then how do we ask that question? So everybody slows down as they age, and he maybe doesn't have the stamina to do the type of public appearances he would have done when he was 70 or 60. But does that mean that he doesn't have the stamina to do the job? I mean, I don't think there's like a simple answer to these questions, and it's all very subjective at the end of the day.
Right. And the guy who was his chief opponent is only 3 or 4 years younger than him.
Exactly.
Now, these are the same people who were all in at the end of the first Trump term that Trump was incapacitated. He was sloppy, he rambled, that Trump, we needed to evoke what the 75th Amendment or something, that we needed to have Mike Pence step in because he wasn't healthy, right? So they were fully ready to endorse that Donald Trump was probably before our eyes, but ignored when it actually happened with Biden. Now, another thing that really sets my hair on fire is the tone of this, because Democrats are blaming Joe Biden and his White House for having stayed in the race, and they're saying this is election denialism, you guys, is what they're doing. They're saying that he stole it from the American people because he ran. Well, he was the president of the United States of America. He had the right to choose to run again. He promised he wouldn't, but he changed his mind because that's who he was, right? He wanted to run again. Democratic voters primaried him. They chose him. They could have chosen someone else. Jake Tapper, however, writes that the primary was illegitimate. Look at this from the New Yorker piece. This is a quote from Joe Biden. The next piece, a quote from Joe Biden saying, "There was a process open to anyone who wanted to run. Only 3 people chose to challenge me." Now, what Jake Tapper writes here is that was not true. They don't qualify how. They don't say what was not true. That there wasn't a primary? There was. That 3 people challenged him? There was. Are they saying that Democrats push down legitimate candidates? That's true. They do, right? Look at Bernie Sanders. Look at Pete Buttigieg. They could have had more of a career if the Democrats had with him. But what about that is not true? They're saying the primaries were illegitimate, and therefore Democratic strategists didn't have to abide by that, I guess. If we look back, it says all these people started to mobilize, and when there was real evidence of Biden's decline, take a look at this paragraph. Can we go back to that same screen? It says that was too much for Clooney.
Therapy thing, like a coping mechanism?
I don't cope. I kill.
This is closure. I called Nancy.
This is closure.
I got it. All right. Hey, a little bit of role-playing never hurt anybody, huh?
Is it up to George Clooney to change this?
I'm worried about Jack. I'm worried about him, all right? I knew things were bad. I didn't know they were this bad. Jack, I'm the guy that's gonna turn your career around.
That was not
His career is just fine, Rufus.
You
got a problem with that?
But now at least they are.
He's still on top.
What we reported all along.
He's still number 1, Rufus.
They pushed him out.
The kid's still number 1.
It was them. It was never the voters. It was
Hey,
the actual president of the
He's
United
hoarding urine in there.
And once again, a reiteration of why no one should trust the legacy media. They were lying right to your face. All of those people on those CNN panels were lying right to your face. Those reporters that had access, that were close to those people. You had people like Karine Jean-Pierre right at the White House podium who every morning was meeting with President Biden. She was lying right to your face, telling you that he was fine, that all of these things were deep fakes. That was my other favorite thing, too, that they called these things. They invented that terminology.
after the George Clooney party.
They called it a deep, what do they call it, a deep fake? Or no, it wasn't a deep fake. They called it something else.
No, they did. They said it was AI and deep fakes.
Yeah, there are a lot of these. Yeah, everything that you're seeing, all the videos you're seeing,
they were like selectively edited. Like there was a different term they were using, not deep fake, but like it was something fake where they were saying it was like specifically edited to make him look incompetent. That was the one where he's saying, and they're like kind of wandering around with like Ursula von der Leyen and like several other European leaders. Yeah,
Emmanuel Macron. Yeah, if anyone knows the
They call them cheap fakes.
Cheap fakes.
That's what they call them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so she'd stand up there at the podium and say these are cheap fakes, that he wasn't longer in office with George Clooney, with Barack Obama leading him off there. That was a cheap fake. They were telling us all of these stories about it being totally cheap and all, fake news, basically. What you were seeing with your own eyes, don't believe your own eyes. These are all cheap, phony videos. Again, how can anyone trust these people? How can anyone trust these people? And by the way, Chuck Todd pretends to be all outraged right now. He was part of the problem. He was part of the cover-up. There he was on television just yesterday when Chuck Schumer was on television. He was blasting Chuck Schumer as he got off the air. He was part of the problem. Senator Chuck Schumer is part of the cover-up. I mean, no, you, Chuck Todd, you, Jake Tapper, all of these people who had access know exactly what was going on. You guys were part of the problem. You guys were part of the cover-up.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, anyway, all right, let us know what you think about this. We're just incredibly frustrated because we were called names for saying what was clear to the rest of us, and for pointing out every time the Biden administration lied to us, Bernie Jean-Pierre lied to us. There were good reporters asking real questions, and we're called names for it, and now they come back and rewrite the script as if they knew all along. They are dead eaters. So let us know what you think of this. All right, that's going to do it for us today. Thank you.
Damn shame. And them CNN reporters saying that the Biden